Warning: the Gel Blaster toy shown in this video could be mistaken for a real firearm. Do not take gel blasters into public spaces or it will likely be treated as real by authorities. Gel blasters are classified as toys in Queensland regulations, however this may be different in your state or territory. Be sure to check your local laws before buying or ordering a gel blaster. Also, ensure you use adequate eye protection whenever using gel blasters. Stay safe, everyone.
G'day boys and girls, welcome back to another gel ball blaster review. So obviously it's a bit hard to hide what I'm going to review considering you can see it right here. So I'll get onto the new blaster in just a second. Quick couple of points to address from the last couple of videos. Firstly, I was made aware of the SKD M4SS. One of the problems is one of the switches on it, which helps control the fire select, is in not a great location due to limited space within the actual receiver body itself. And so as a result of that, over very little cycling, it can get damaged and not work. Apparently in the forums it's quite a known issue, so much so that a friend of mine who has actually, I play with regularly, bought one and it only got 1 or 2 mags put through it before this switch failed. The solution to do so is to hardwire it into full auto, and then they seem to be reliable as ever. However, it's kind of annoying when you consider that half the point and value of those blasters is the fact that they can do a 3-round burst through that fire selector. So just something to be aware of there. Leading further on, with the Wells M401, I was also made aware there is a bit at the back of the section where the stock goes in. Now on a couple that I had looked at and dealt with, they were not very well secured and they had a tendency to fall out or unclip easily, and so I suggested doing something to like put a bolt through it or something to know it's actually held in securely. In one case, one of the commenters on the video for that mentioned that there is a way to lock them in more securely. However, I have also noticed pictures online in that multiple batches seem to have different connection latches that are minorly different. So it could be as simple as some of the stocks made at one factory put onto the receiver bodies from the other factory when assembled aren't exactly the best fitting ones, and it could be something like that. So unfortunately, these are toys. There's a lot of quality control that isn't taken into account that you would normally find in certain products and industries. So that's just something we have to deal with, especially because it all comes from China. So they throw it together. It probably costs them $50 in general to make one of those blasters. And yeah, so we don't expect a huge amount of quality, but little things like that, which you're always going to find. Even some magazines don't necessarily cross over. So it's really annoying with things like that, but it's just part of the beast. So without further delay, we'll get into the new review, and one which I know that there's quite a few people who are interested in for various reasons, and that is the Kriss Vector version 2. Now, the Kriss Vector version 2, there are technically 3 versions of this blaster out there at the moment. This is the Hui brand version 2. Now, there is another one that was made by another company. I'm not sure what brand it was that made it. I think it was an STD or an SKD. Either way, so there is some confusion over V2, V3. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is actually the version 2 Hui brand because they've made one previously as well. So hopefully that helps clarify some bits up. But without any further action, we'll get into section 1 and have a close-up look at the blaster. So starting at the front business end, something you will notice here is that the blaster comes with a small outer barrel with a molded flash hider just here. The best bit is this blaster also comes with a mock suppressor just there, and on the end of that, which you can sort of just see there, is a thread. So in order to change this over, very simply unthread it, put whichever one you prefer in, so like any thread, turn it in clockwise, and that goes in. Now these do have about 1.25 inches of actual thread space in them, and they go quite a way in, so once you thread it all the way in, it's not necessarily going to stop, come out. The other side is you could also, if you wanted to hollow this one out, because it is quite, it's just the diameter of the pipe just there is the same all the way through to the outside end of the actual mic suppressor. So you could hollow this out and modify it to take a hop up inside, so then you have the hop up contained within this unit itself. Could be a cool way to do it, but the other side of it is, for me personally, if I'm buying a short SMG style package, this is just extending the length. So me personally, I would not run this suppressor, the mock suppressor. I would run the flash hider, and I'd put the hop up just here. That way it keeps it quite a short package and more maneuverable. The fields that I play at as well are quite CQB areas around walls and structures, so for me that would be usable. Now something you can just see just there, I will try and get that a bit closer for you. There we go. So as you can see on the end there, that is a plastic barrel. So no alloy barrel in this one. Something to be aware of. It seems to go okay for what it is still, but just so you're aware, there are possibilities of upgrading to an alloy barrel like any plastic barrel blaster, but that's up to you and your personal preference. So moving further along, we'll go into the front end of the actual blaster body itself. So as you can see, you do have a flip up iron sight that goes just on the top rail here. Now the front one is paired with one at the back, as you can see just there, so they line up quite well. Now you don't have to have this little mock red dot sight, ACOG sight, not ACOG, sorry, holographic sight just there, but you can if you wish. Now this holographic sight that comes with it, it is one like the M4SS one, which is absolutely got nothing in it. It's not even one with a little light up light in it, like so. So there's no batteries, nothing, it's just there to look cool. That's about it. So again, personal preference. If this was my blaster, I wouldn't even run this. I just have the two iron sights for a bit of fun. Now the top rail that goes all the way along the body, you can actually slide this on or off, and in case if you need to pull the body and casing apart, you will have to take that off. Just something to be aware of there. So further along, you do also have two side rails just here. Each one is about 3 to 4 inches long, so you can mount torches and whatnot. Not only that, but inside the casing with the blaster, you do get a nice little cheap toy torch, which you can just slide onto the rail like that if I didn't fail at life so badly. And you also get a little red laser light as well, which just slides on like so. Now they do have little Allen screws on them, hex key bolts. You can just tighten those up so they won't move. So you have a little red laser light, as you can see just there, on the right, and a little torch. Now they're nothing flash, they're definitely only cheap little toys, but as part of the package, not a bad deal. You do also get this foregrip. Now the foregrip itself is just plastic, it's nothing special. However, it is quite firm, unlike the one on the M4SS, because the rail is actually molded into the rail that goes on the bottom, which again, like the side one, it's about 3 to 4 inches. Is actually part of the molded body, so it is quite firm. And not only that, you just loosen the bottom just here, and the whole thing can slide on or off as you wish. Locate it wherever you would like, and then you just tighten up that bottom cap on the foregrip, and she's pretty tight, she's not going anywhere. So moving further along, now on the right hand side, you do have a few little molded signs, such as the little .45 ACP, which would be the caliper in the real firearm. However, obviously this being a gel ball blaster, that is absolutely pointless, just there to look cool. You do also have on the top sides, just here on both sides, the naming of the blaster, at least what it's modeled after. However, due to copyright law issues, which they don't want to deal with in the Chinese factories, it's a Kriss Vector, because I'll try and see if you can see just closely there. There you go, not quite. It's spelled VCCTOR. Now, that's purely to get around licensing and copyright infringement. Hilarious nonetheless. Moving on the left hand side of the actual body itself, you do have the bolt release button here. Again, in Gel Blaster, does absolutely nothing, just let it look cool, make some noise when you're running around. And then you have the main mechanism. So this body here is where the gearbox is contained. The gearbox is a style of a Gen 8 gearbox, except it's actually on an angle, so the whole gearbox is angled up like this, and then it bends around and the nozzle comes out here. So your piston works up and down here and goes to the nozzle, which goes into the barrel. So it's a very strange design, but all the inner components, from what we can see are the same as your Gen 8 components. It's just the actual gearbox itself which is laid out differently. So there are some options there for modifying. However, take that with a grain of salt because I've never done it and I don't know anyone who has. So I do know that the gentleman who owns this blaster doesn't want to touch it because they don't want to risk breaking it. But more on that later. You also have your magwell just there. So magazine slides up through there, like so. Goes all the way up. Now we'll go through more of that in section 2. Moving further along the top above the handle and trigger, you do have 2 selectors. Now this one here at the front is a fire selector. So going from single to 3 round burst to full automatic as such. Now the best bit is, as you can see, it's not a ghost moving it, it is ambidextrous. You move one, it moves the other, which is awesome. They both work, they're both on the side, and they both link together, which is perfect. Now the switch at the back here, which you can see in another bright orange, is your safety. So at the moment it is in safe, which is across. You cannot pull the trigger back. So it's true safety. You can't even pull the trigger. It's not just a switch to disable the electrics. Lift it down like so, it's no longer in safe. You can now pull the trigger. Pretty simple, but there you go. The hand grip, or the pistol grip, is molded slightly. It does have some molded serrations in the front and back, and also some texturing on the sides. I'll see if you can just see it there. Unfortunately, I don't have some great lighting in here. I am hoping to get some lights soon, so hopefully that'll make life a bit easier for you all to see. It's a little bit wide, but it's not too bad. It's pretty good grip one-handed, as so. And obviously you do have your molded or texturing just here on the front for the normal style of 2-hand grip, like so. Or of course your foregrip. Now, personally I think that that works fine, but you could go around one-handed with this if you wished. And it's actually fairly secure. Something else to note is your stock at the back. Now, I like the look of the stock, but I don't like the stock in practicality. I like how they've molded the actual buttstock section down lower, because if you were to try and aim this thing, you would have it down lower so you can put your eye line through. However, again, in a gel ball blaster, fairly pointless, and to me this just gets in the way. Now, fortunately, you can fold it out of the way like so, and it just clips on there. And there you go, you've got an even smaller package, as you can see, just there. Simply enough, just clips back in as so. Now, the whole body is more of a nylon or plastic mix, so it seems fairly solid. It's definitely one of the more solid looking blasters, and even feeling blasters in a lot of cases. You do also have a sling hook just here on the back of the stock. I'll see if I can get that somewhere where you can see it. Yep, just there. And yeah, so the blaster itself looks good. Like, it definitely looks very different. It looks very attractive. It is definitely a sexy looking little package. However, there are a few points on that which I'll note now before we get into it too further. And one is, this is meant to be a small, compact, relatively lightweight package. So say you wanted to go one-handed with this thing. Entirely possible, easy to control. The problem is that because your gearbox is mounted here and all your mechanism is forward and that far forward of your hand, unlike say on an M4 style blaster, where your gearbox and mechanism is all right above your hand, this one you can hold fairly easily one-handed because all the weight is right where your hand is, so it's not too far out. However, because all your gearbox and everything is mounted forward and at a distance from where your hand's actually holding, you've got quite a bit of strain in here. So running around with this for a while, your arm is going to get sore and tired unless you're a single guy, in which case your wrist is probably fine. But just something to be aware of there. It is actually quite heavy, especially at full extension. You're going to have a lot of drop, and after a while your arm's going to get sore. So just something to be aware of. It's more of a personal preference, but yeah, I wouldn't go long-term one-handed with this thing because it still has a fair bit of weight in it. It's probably about the same weight as the M4SS all told. It is actually quite heavy for the size of it, and that's simply due to the way it's all laid out. So it looks cool, definitely looks cool. I would paint it. I don't like the color scheme too much, although I can see why some people would like it. Now let's move into section 2 and some of the basic operations. So first and foremost, where does the battery go? Now you might think it goes in here with the actual gearbox and the magazine. That's quite a large space. You would be wrong. The battery goes in the pistol grip just here. So you can see a little connection there. Now, something to be aware, these do come with your standard black gel blaster connection, as you can see just there on that battery. That's what they normally come with, nothing special. This one is owned by a friend of mine who we play with quite a lot, and we are in the process of converting all of our connections over to connections which can better handle voltage and a few other things. So we use these little yellow XT60 connectors. So all of our batteries and blasters are being converted over to that. So yours will work with your standard batteries. You don't need to worry about that. Not only that, but this one did not come with a battery, so because of the way it was shipped. So I do believe that you'll probably get a 7.4 volt battery as standard with them, but just to be aware, all the batteries that I'm going to use for these tests and whatnot, they're 11 volt batteries, and they're also the bigger Turnigy batteries. They're a much more high quality battery than your standard gel ball gun batteries, which are your cheap Chinese ones that are entirely honest on their labeling. Yes. But anyway, either way, it's just a connection that's changed. You simply plug in your battery as so, and then it goes into the pistol or hand grip. Now, there is another bright orange panel, which latches in and sits quite flush along the bottom of the pistol grip. So I'll show you just there. This battery doesn't quite fit in. That's something we're quite kind of dealing with at the moment. We're trying to find a way around. But your normal gel gun batteries should fit just fine. It will probably be supplied with your very small ones, like for example, this little guy just here. I'll put it somewhere where you can see it, like the little ones. Odds are that's what you're likely to get. You might get some of the really small cylinder types, but until they actually release them in the stores properly, that's unknown. The batteries we use don't quite fit. So we are currently working on that, trying to find a way around, but yeah, just something to be aware of. So now that the battery's in, let's have a look at your magazine. So this is an automatically mag-fed blaster, a lot like most of them are nowadays. So there is a motor inside your magazine. Now the magazine is quite sizable. It's probably on par with physical size with your UMP magazines. However, it does have a quite different shape, as you can sort of just see there. Now, if you look at the magazine on the very top there, there's your little feed tube up there, and you've got your contacts for your motor just on that angled piece. And then at the back here, you've got a little door for feeding your gels. Now again, as usual, I have preloaded this, mostly Milkies, just as you can see right there. All right, something else to be aware of. You fill this, it goes up to here. I recommend filling it horizontal because there's actually a fair bit of space just in here for a few extra gels. Just something to be aware of. Now the mag well, it looks like it's flared. It's not, it's just a cutout. So you simply put your angled end in first, just like so, and then angle back, and it should slide straight up. And now that's locked in place. And that's how it will sit in the blaster. Now to remove the magazine, you have a mag release. Now the mag release is only on the left hand side. It's this little orange button just here. That's it there. There's an orange mechanism on the same side, on the same place on the other side here. That's the other side of the latch. Much like your M4s, when you push that, it pushes this latch out. Now it is a bit of a weird location, mostly because of how high it is. So it can be a bit difficult for some people to get that out easily, especially when you're under stress and running around. For me, it's not too bad. The best way I've found to do it is to put your hand there as if you were firing, slide your hand down a bit so your thumb's on the catch, and your bottom finger and the bottom of your hand is around the top of the magazine. And then with your thumb, you press the button in, and then you release your hand and pull it down like so. I found that to be the easiest way to do it reliably, so you can just go like so. Now be aware when you do it, if you don't pull it on the exact right angle, it will catch on those on a bit of the plastic. So towards the end, you do have to sort of dovetail it out a bit. It's not a major issue. If you don't go ripping it out, you'll be fine and you won't break anything. But yeah, so mag release, press the button, pull the mag out. Simple as that. Feed a new one in. Simple as that. It goes up on the same angle. So fairly simple device there. Now your charging handle is just here on your left hand side. Now it does sit like this. It won't sit flush like so. If you let it go, it will let go. It will swing back. It is spring loaded. Now, to charge a magazine, you simply pull it back like so, and then pull it back. And you're now charged. Now something else to note, when you do pull it back, this bottom plate here, little dust cover on the ejection port, will flop open, like so. So nice little dust cover there, like most of your M4 styles have. Simple as that. Now when you're ready to fire, of course we're still on safe, you flick that down, pull the trigger, and it will fire a round, like so. Now obviously I flick that back to safe. Obviously 3-round burst is the middle, it has a little symbol of 3 little bullets, and full auto has a couple of dots next to 3 little bullets. So easy enough to do. Little guides there so you can't over push them too much, which is fine. Now obviously, like I said with your stock, push the button and you can flick it back. Now there's a little latch just there it hooks onto. It's not the most secure in the world when you push it in, but it won't release too easily without maybe a little bit of a bump up. So if you're running around and you accidentally bump it, it may swing around and get a little annoying. Something else to note with these stocks now, as part of the supplied components with this blaster, you will get a tube that you can remove this whole thing off the hinge, put in another one which comes out to about here, and it has a thread in it. Now the idea of this is, it is a swing around mechanism with a thread for an M4 style buffer tube, which means that if you put the M4 buffer tube in that thread, you can fit M4 style stocks onto it that go onto the buffer tube accordingly. So that way, if you don't like this sort of stock, like me, I'm not a personal preference, it's not my personal preference, you can put in a lot of your basic M4 style stocks, which is really handy. However, I have heard that because of that thread, and it will be because all the different M4s are made by different people, the threads are going to be different, and the sizing, diameter, all that, they're all going to be slightly different. So I haven't had a chance to find out which buffer tubes fit onto the thread. So something there to be aware of. Maybe wait till someone's already done it and they can tell you. Yeah, apparently the standard Gen 8 M4A1 buffer tubes don't fit. This is just what I've heard. Again, I haven't been able to test it myself, so definitely look for more information there to be sure of what you're doing. Other than that, she's all ready to go. Now, if you do want to turn on your little laser light, there's a little button on the back just here. Just like so, just clicks in. And the same on your torch, the button is just here. So, and that's it. So the blaster looks very, very nice. It definitely feels solid in your hands. It has a bit of weight to it, which is good. I do prefer a blaster with a little bit of weight to it, so it doesn't feel like you're just carrying a piece of plastic crap. And it seems to go okay. Only a couple little niggles, which are little things from factory, such as the whole battery case, but it's not really designed for it. The stock, the position of the mag release, but on the whole, it seems fairly good. So with that in mind, let's have a look at the Chrono test and see what it can do. So we seem to be averaging low 220s to low mid 230s, so probably a mean average of about 228, 230, and we'll say 230 just to break it even, be conservative. Not a bad little standard rate of fire, especially when you consider it's got quite a short barrel. The gearbox is unupgraded. Now, keep in mind, like I did mention earlier, I am using the 11-volt battery. Shouldn't affect the feet per second ratio at all, but just something there to be aware of. Also, I am using a batch of Milkies, so not using my normal oranges for this one as of yet. And yeah, still not too bad. So we'll flick it over to 3-round burst and give that a try. So yeah, we seem to be averaging, again, 230. So definitely consistent. I'm not seeing more of a deviation than maybe 3 to 4 feet per second either side. Pretty good, all things considered. So we'll flick over to full auto and we'll give it a rate of fire test. See how many gels we can get out per shot. So we seem to be getting some inconsistent numbers for rate of fire. I'm definitely hearing it misfire. It's not always feeding the next gel or firing for some strange reason. I'm not sure why that is. Now, what I might do, I'll just refill the magazine, I'll give it another try just to see if we can get a consistent number. Yeah, it's not feeding consistently. here and misfiring. You can see that it's not firing consistent, so we might give that one put a pin in that one for now. I'm not sure if it's the battery and the magazine motor just can't keep up with it. I don't think that's the case, because I know a mate of mine the other weekend was using one of my 11 volt bigger airsoft batteries and it was running fine. So we'll see how things go. But again, still sitting at 230 feet per second average, which is good. So not at all a bad performance by the Vector. So what we'll do now is we'll jump outside in the nice Queensland sun and we'll see what the accuracy is like.
So just something here I wanted to quickly highlight for you is I'm not going to bother doing a 20 meter range test, and you'll see why in just a second. I've slowed this footage right down to about half speed. The accuracy of this thing at about 15 meters is absolutely rubbish. It's just like the AK-47 in that regard. Now I'm thinking that it could be because it's a really short and plastic barrel, so it's not able to actually direct it as clearly. It could be a number of things. Yeah, so just thought I'd highlight that one for you. I'd say that for this thing, a hop-up is an absolute necessity, although obviously that's up to you. Also the feeding issues, I believe that this was just this blaster that had that issue. I don't think that's a normal issue for them to have. As I mentioned, I did have a mates to try out as well, and it seemed to be fine, so it might have just been that magazine that I was using. Either way, we'll continue on. So that was the mag empty test. Unfortunately, due to the misfeed issue, I had to calculate it using the timing in my editing software, so about 17 seconds approximately. Now with an 11 volt battery, that's not actually half bad when you consider the actual size of the magazine doesn't appear to be that big. It's just on par with the M4 wells and whatnot that I tested previously. So moving on from that, we're going to move into some gameplay. Keep in mind this was done at a mate's field that we have in central Queensland, so private field where we have a few games. The field itself is in a bit of a state of disrepair, so we're hoping to get that fixed up soon, and we also have some new fields opening up in the area. Other than that, hope you enjoy.
Go! Hello! That's what I Hit! I'm so glad I got someone. Ah, fuck! Hit! Son of a bitch! No, he did. Brady did. As I zigged from you, I should have zagged from him. But I did not. I'm just annoyed I didn't get you. That would have been hilarious. Oh yeah. That was funny. Hit! Hit! You got me in the gut. Woo! Hit!
So yeah, so we had a fair bit of fun in those games. Most of the games we played that day were only short infection / trader style games, so they didn't last too long, usually about a minute or two each before the game was over. Nice, quick, little fast-paced games. Our field was also in a bit of a state of disrepair, as you can see. We're trying to get that fixed up, so unfortunately it wasn't the best way to highlight this blaster and what it can and can't do, but still not bad for the scenario that we were trying to deal with. It took me a minute to get used to actually aiming with it because of the barrel being so far down from where your hand actually is. It's very unique placement compared to most of your ordinary blasters, meaning that I had a bit of a familiarization I needed to get over with before I was actually able to do very effectively. So obviously you are only watching edited highlights there, but even so, still handled pretty well. Like, all in all, the blaster definitely goes fine. So we'll jump into the final thoughts and recommended accessories, and we'll go into that. So final thoughts: blaster's solid, feels very good in your hands. The stock is nice, even though it looks a bit weird. You could replace it with another stock and it'd be even easier. A bit weird to handle one-handed, bit cumbersome in that regard, but if you use it as a main, just running single, not dual-wield like I did because I was being silly and we were just having fun, then you could probably do pretty well with this thing. I must recommend a hop-up. It would absolutely require it. I'd say an alloy barrel would be not a bad idea to replace, but at the same time it's not necessarily required. It does fine as it is. You are going to notice some issues there, but that would definitely help. Also, apart from that, you're going to want at least 3 spare magazines, because what you'll notice is even though I was only firing on burst fire for most of the games, I still managed to run out pretty quickly because you get a bit trigger happy. So I would recommend at least 3 spare magazines on top of the one that you would get with any time you'd purchase the blaster. Other than that, it runs pretty well. So yeah, that's about all I have to say on that one. Was a great bit of fun, definitely something different, and I might even pick one up myself one day, but obviously it is a very unique looking blaster, so that's one of the big appeals for it. Other than that, that's all I've got for you today, so hope you've had a good one, and I'll catch you next time.